Hello and welcome to your astrological forecast for the week of Monday, March 18th through Sunday, March 24th, 2024. There are a few major events that I wanted to talk about this week. Moon will be transiting from Cancer through all the way through Libra. And basically, we are preparing for the full moon lunar eclipse that will happen with the moon in Libra early next week. So basically, the intensity is like ramping up right now. Part of that, as well as that sun will be moving into Aries this week. We're going to talk more about what that means. But basically, it's the spring equinox. So the entire world has 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of darkness. There's a lot of symbology there, a huge metaphor there. But basically, it means that we are plunging into Aries season. We're going full speed ahead. One last thing I wanted to talk about before I give you some key dates for this week is that also we have to pay attention to Mercury right now because Mercury will turn retrograde on April 1st. So right now, Mercury's in the pre-shadow. That basically means that Mercury's already in the area that it will eventually go back over when it is retrograde, if that makes sense. So basically, when you add all of it together, when you add Mercury in the pre-shadow, when you add the approaching full moon lunar eclipse, when you add sun entering Aries, all of this points to things ramping up, things intensifying. We're getting some fire going, some action, some intensity. The intensity is thickening, if that makes sense. So on the one hand, yes, that can be tense, that can be stressful. There's so much activity. We don't have time to absorb it all. We don't have time to fully integrate or appreciate what's happening around us. However, that's okay. Look to the themes of Aries. Look to what, your Aries sun, friends, or family are doing. They can kind of show us how to take things head on. You don't have to know all the answers, and, every single mystery doesn't have to be figured out right away. We have to accept some kind of mystery in this world, I think, in order to proceed with confidence and just, do whatever we want to do, basically. And that's something I wanted to articulate as well in this forecast is that yes, Aries, we're familiar with the Aries themes, the archetypes of being outgoing and initiation, but really Aries is all about the self. It's about our own intentions. It's about taking, control, taking action. So ultimately, focus on your intentions. What are your intentions? What do you desire? This is all about you. It's about me. For me, it's about me, but for you, it's about you. What do you want? What do you want for this next week, this next month, this next year? Because really we're starting a year. This is the new year in astrology, basically. So very exciting stuff. Focus on your intentions. I know I always preach that, but really it's something I think that can make life much more worthwhile. Okay, so enough jibber jabber. Let's go through a couple key dates for this week that I wanted to talk about. So the first one is Tuesday, March 19th, where technically the sun will enter Aries. Now it's kind of interesting though, because at least for Eastern Standard Time, the time zone that I'm in, the sun will only enter Aries very late in the day. It's after 11 p.m., very late at night. So depending on where you are in the world, the sun may be entering Aries technically very early on Wednesday, March 20th. Let's not split hairs. Basically, whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday, we are moving into a new season. We're moving into spring in the northern hemisphere, fall in the southern hemisphere. And again, like I said in the intro, we're moving into a new year astrologically. It's a new beginning. It's a new chapter. It's very exciting. Even if you don't have a lot of Aries placements in your chart or a lot of fire placements, I still think it's exciting because wherever this lands in your chart, it has something to do with initiation, new beginnings, as well as like I said, it's an individualistic energy as well. So maybe the way you start things or the way you express your individuality isn't as outgoing as Aries. That's fine, because it's all about you. It's about your uniqueness and your self-expression and how you want to do things. Okay, so that's where you can kind of it is malleable, I think, this kind of energy, because it's dependent on your own intentions, if that makes sense. So very exciting stuff. I don't want to dwell on that too much, but I do think it's generally exciting going from Pisces to Aries. There's nothing wrong with Pisces. There's nothing wrong with winter. It's just a more kind of sleepy, dreamy time of manifestation. So hopefully by now we've kind of integrated and pondered and done some soul searching during these winter zodiac signs. Now it's time to take action. Now it's time to do things, to take action. Basically, this is even more true because of what I said as well, that the moon is gaining light each day. We're preparing for that full moon lunar eclipse. The other thing that I'm going to talk about is Mars moving into Pisces this week. But before I talk about that, there is one kind of aspect, I guess you could say, that I wanted to mention. So for this, I actually don't need to change charts. You can see here, I don't know if I can point. Yes, I can. Okay. So there's actually a triple conjunction between Mercury, Chiron, and the North Node, all around 16, 17, 18 degrees Aries. This is pretty insane. If I don't always mention like double conjunctions for these forecasts, but a triple conjunction, that's something worth paying attention to. That's a really big deal. Um, okay, so what does this mean? We're basically infusing the energies of Mercury, Chiron, and North Node all together. First, let's talk about North Node conjunct Chiron, or Chiron conjunct North Node, either way. So Chiron, as you may know, it's the wounded healer. Chiron in Aries has been especially volatile. It's been there since 2018. And what have we seen in these years since 2018? We've seen a lot more protests. We've seen cancel culture. A lot of it has been kind of explosive and maybe slightly embarrassing, but some of it has been worthwhile as well. We're speaking our truth. We're demanding understanding. We're demanding our truth to be known. We're demanding justice, things like that. This is very much Chiron and Aries. It's all about, my wounds and, my self-expression, so that kind of explains, why all this frustration has kind of reached a boiling point. And, we've been a lot more vocal with this kind of transit. But specifically with Chiron and Aries conjunct the North Node, I really think this is an opportunity for gaining greater responsibility, for gaining greater self-awareness, and really for searching for the truth as well. I think this is an opportunity for the truth to come out in a really bold way, and we are seeking this truth, this understanding, this justice that is continuing. But I think it's a turning point on a societal level. I think we have the opportunity to kind of level up, so to speak, when it comes to all these traumas and the pain, the suffering, the lies and all of that. I think we're leveling up and we're reaching a greater place of truth and responsibility. Mercury there basically just adds fuel to the fire, so to speak. Having an inner planet kind of hanging out right at the same place for this conjunction, it just points our attention to these themes that much further. And it shows that we're talking a lot about this kind of thing. We're learning a lot. We're talking a lot about, like I said, all this greater, this truth, this understanding, this responsibility. Our mental focus is there that much more with Mercury in this conjunction as well. Okay, so that is kind of a funky one. I did just want to talk about that real quick. Last major event that we're going to talk about for this week is Mars entering Pisces. So you can see that for Friday, March 22nd. This is the chart that I found for Mars entering Pisces. This is another one that's very late in the day, at least Eastern Standard Time. You can see it's after 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here. So, of course, the time may be different. The date could even be different depending on your time zone. But what this means is Mars, has spent months now in Aquarius. Now it's finally entering Pisces. And honestly, this is kind of a weird one. Of course, just like with any transit, to understand how this will affect you, you have to see where is Pisces in your chart. Where are your natal placements? Where's your natal Mars? Does this transit agree with your placements? Okay. But generally speaking, for everyone, Mars in Pisces is a weird one because Mars has to do with our ambitions, our drive. It's what we fight for, as well as how we fight for what we want, right? So Mars tends to do really well, tends to be very comfortable in these fire signs, or maybe like fixed signs or cardinal signs, because Mars does well in like very simplistic signs, confident signs. Mars in Pisces gets a little bit convoluted because Pisces more has to do with themes involving spirituality and ideas, feelings, vibes. So if you're fighting for a feeling, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that typically, a goal needs to be something that's clearly attainable, clearly defined. Have I reached my goal or not? With Mars and Pisces, it shows that what we're seeking is a little bit deeper. It's more universal. We're fighting for greater spiritual, understanding. We're fighting for a sense of well-being or peace. You know what I mean? So these kinds of fights are definitely worthwhile. It's just that they get a little bit more tricky. They're a little bit deeper in nature, so it may be more difficult to tell, have I attained my goal or not? Nothing wrong with that, but it can be a little bit complicated. And I think sometimes we can lose focus with Mars and Pisces as well. I think this can go kind of different ways. On the one hand, Mars and Pisces could be very spiritual, so maybe we're fighting from a place of great emotional intelligence and wisdom. That could be pretty powerful. However, on the other hand, Pisces, although it does have to do with themes involving enlightenment and wisdom, it can also go the other way and have themes of delusion and escapism and things like that as well. So we may be fighting as a form of escape. We may be fighting kind of with our own selves and our inner demons and things like that. So that's where it gets very confusing and very psychological with Mars and Pisces. But again, for greater, information and understanding on this, look to your own natal placements. If you have Mars and Pisces natally, you're going to be very comfortable with this. You may have more energy, more drive, more ambition, etc. If you have placements forming harsh aspects with this, like let's say you have a lot of Virgo placements, you may feel a lack of Mars energy. You may feel kind of drained or passive, tired, etc. It really just depends on what your natal placements are. But generally speaking, this is kind of a weird transit for us as a, on a communal level. Okay, but that's pretty much what I have for this week. So definitely come back next week because we have that full moon lunar eclipse. It's going to be visible through a lot of North America. So that is a pretty big one. Any eclipse is definitely worth talking about, but especially when it's actually visible over, a huge chunk of land where a lot of people reside. That's a big deal. And it really, it's going to be really interesting to see how that eclipse affects not just the whole world, but specifically the area that it is visible over, because that is a pretty big deal. And then, like I said as well, a couple weeks from now we're gonna have Mercury retrograde, so never a dull moment, always very interesting. But thanks for hanging out with me for these few minutes, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week.